This is the Power of OZmosis podcast, powered by the Vidwheel Creator Network. Hi, everyone. This is the Power of OZmosis video podcast, powered by Vidwheel Creator Network. My name is John Osberg, and I am joined today by a recently minted friend and someone who's already inspiring me from a different part of New York State. That is one Rob Bowen, who's the owner of Patriotic Insurance Group. Rob, welcome to the show, my friend.
John, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to this. I'm glad we got a chance to meet a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, and thanks for saying that, because I'd be remiss not to shout out my good friend and fellow Purple Eagle, Matt Warner, who is the owner of Aerovine. Matt is a mutual friend of ours, and he knows I love to support military veterans. Here we have a military veteran of the United States Navy, lieutenant, retired. So first, starting with the thanks, as always, for your service, Rob, and again, thanks for being on the show.
It's my pleasure. As I tell everyone, my service in the Navy was the best job I will ever have. I loved every single minute of it. So
that's powerful. That is powerful, and that's one of the things that I know you've translated into life from when you were discharged to now, which is passion and service to others. So as always, this is here to spend 20 to 25 minutes with us today, our millions of viewers. Law of attraction. I do it every show. It'll happen one day, but it's all about impact. And so in this case, this is going to be a guide on how to build business by building community. And this man, Rob Bowen, certainly knows about that. He's got a pretty cool not-for-profit that he helps support that I'll let him get more into. And I know before we started recording, Rob, I have a to-do for you and for Suits for Soldiers, which is the organization that we're speaking about at hand here. So, Rob, why don't we jump in with you and hear about your path to now and what now looks like for you?
Okay. We opened, I spent 8 years in the military, got out, did about 13 years down on Wall Street. When I turned 50, didn't want to work for anyone anymore. Decided the insurance industry was the way to go. A couple of iterations of it. But what I learned early on in business as an entrepreneur is we have a unique ability as a small business owner, as we brand ourselves, as we bring ourselves out in the community, to leverage what we're doing every day, call it marketing, call it prospecting, leveraging that to help someone else. Because I've built a pretty extensive network inside the veteran community and outside. And when I'm doing that for my business, I'm trying to obviously generate revenue for my agency, for my employees, for my family. But I very quickly realized that the same tools I was using, the same conversations I was having, I could leverage that to help someone else. And obviously, being a veteran, that was the easy one for me. I mean, for me, it's personal. My son just got out. My daughter-in-law is currently deployed. There's a lot of young kids out there defending this country of ours. And for me, it's my duty to do it. But what I kind of push for is we can all do a little bit. I've seen a lot of people that want to help. They just don't know how, right? They just don't know. No one's really explained it to them. So I can explain the how. And my perfect person is someone says, I really want to help veterans. How do I do it? And I've got a list of 4 or 5 organizations I work with. I've got a bigger list I can go to. So I can always find something for that person. But what we've been able to do is I've been able to leverage my physical office and leverage what I'm doing. So as I'm out presenting with realtors or mortgage lenders or whoever, everybody always gives me 5 minutes at the end to talk about Suits for Soldiers. So now I have 20, 25 people on a Zoom call, 20 people in a room, and I start talking about that. Insurance is not exciting, John. So most people want to hear that opposed to Rob talking insurance. But what it does is I've had people, Rotaries will do suit drives. I've had the local schools do suit drives. I've leveraged my office to help National Honor Society students do projects. I had a young man do a homeless, he did boxes for homeless veterans.
Wow.
So he did a whole project and came up with 50 boxes full of supplies for the homeless veterans in my area. And I know someone can distribute them. I wasn't going to send a 17-year-old out in the woods. But that's the kind of stuff you can do as a business owner, because I knew the right people. I knew what we were doing. Suits, if I can keep rolling here, Suits started about
Please.
5.5 years ago with one article in our local paper. We all, as small business owners, would love the return on this investment. I collected 1,600 suits in 5 weeks on one article in a local
1,600.
paper. 1,600. We were getting 30 suits a day.
Man.
Okay, with one article. And I was going to stop because it was only till Veterans Day. And I realized I couldn't. And that was 5.5 years ago.
Wow.
Don't know how many we've collected. I lost track, but I'm going to guess we're in the 15,000-ish realm. Yeah, every quarter we have a cargo van come to my office and load up. Now I also collect pants and shoes and belts and ties, and because not everyone needs a suit anymore. But everyone knows me now. Everyone's like, "You're the suit guy." People do suit drives. I have a lot of widows, Vietnam veteran widows, come in with their husbands' suits and their husbands' clothes because they don't want to throw them out. They don't
Right.
want to put them in the bins. So we help with that grieving process. It's very humbling. It's very powerful. And so when they all talk, when you're doing good, people talk about you. And so we've been able to leverage that. I keep it separate from insurance. I very clearly do not, as people come in, we don't collect names, we don't collect phone numbers, none of that stuff. And it's not about getting business. It's about helping people out. But in the same vein, people know me as a good person, and that helps as an entrepreneur and helps as a small business owner. That my goal is to do good. We get a couple phone calls a week. People, hey, I heard you collect suits. Thrift shops at churches. I joke they're good clients of mine because they get suits and their clients are homeless people, so they don't need suits. So I had the deacon of the Methodist church call me one day and say, "We're closing our thrift shops. Can you take our suits?" Of course I can. So we figured
Wow.
that whole thing out. Today's Man has donated. Some of the big suit companies have donated. I've got custom suit fitters that have extra suits, or their clients who get new suits every year are now
Yeah.
donating their suits. So
Wow.
she's collecting, and it kind of takes on a life of its own. But what I like is people come to me, "Hey, what can we do to help?" Well, you can collect suits. You can do a suit drive. You can, whatever you need to do. And I'm part of a task force in the Hudson Valley in New York. So if I can connect them to another not-for-profit, then I do that too. If suits just won't work for them. So that's
Amazing.
a long-winded history to get to where we are today.
No, it's a beautiful history. I would love to hear more about you, the man kind of behind the operation. Well, one of the people behind the operation. I obviously know that you're the owner of your insurance company. And I might add that it may not be exciting, but it sure is essential.
Yeah.
So how's that? How's that for swapping on is a word starting with an E, a descriptor, but essential indeed. And so is service to others. And I love how you touched on, the way that, yeah, sure. You may get business out of it, but you're doing it with the intent of doing the right thing, spreading goodness. You've seen the scenarios again unfold in front of you where widows are coming in. You see how impactful that is, right? You can't put a price on that. You can't,
Yeah.
you can't replace that kind of an experience. It helps you grow as a person, as a leader, as a business owner, and you know that you've done some good for someone who was going through a tough time. So I'd love to hear though just more about you and maybe what led you to the military, and then even just again your experiences as a leader that have gotten you to today. I know you did a beautiful job unpacking on suits, and I don't know if I said this during the pod yet, but I owe you some gear that we talked about a week and a half ago. So I'm excited to dial that in, but maybe more about you.
Okay. I graduated from high school, went to college. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. Didn't really want to put a suit on. Did that for a summer as an internship. So honestly, I was a bum for a year out of college and was like, needless to say, my parents weren't real happy after sending me to 4 years of college. So my whole family's Navy. My dad, my grandfather, my father-in-law now, my brother-in-law, my son. So it's all Navy in my family. And so when I was 23, I was like, let me look at the Navy. Let's see what they have to offer. And I went in and they're like, well, would you like to fly off of carriers? I was like, that sounds like a lot of fun. Now I had classes, so I can't be a pilot. So I was a naval flight officer in the back of an E2.
Mm,
So I went through AOCS, which was Marine Corps drill instructors, with a bunch of college graduates becoming naval officers. So they had a lot of fun with us. I'll leave it there. It was 1987. There
mm,
was no internet, there was no pictures, there was nothing. So they had a lot of fun, and that unfortunately closed down in 1991. I was one of
mm,
the last classes.
mm.
Apparently, it was too hard. I don't know, but it was also during the era of Top Gun. Top
Ooh.
Gun came out, so there was a lot of people showed up thinking, "Oh, I'm just going to learn how to fly a plane." And no, it takes a little long. So that was 16 weeks with a Marine Corps drill instructor. It changes your
Wow.
life. I will tell you that.
Sounds like
Um,
it.
you learn your strengths, you learn your weaknesses, you learn to take pain, you learn what blacking out is. You learn what, you know, just you can't do another push up and you can. Great training. It's life altering.
Mm,
Did 2 years in flight school and then went out to the West Coast. Flew off of 3 different carriers. Was part of Desert Shield. We were the first carrier into the Gulf when he invaded Kuwait.
mm,
So that was an experience unto itself. But the thing I loved about the military, you mentioned leadership and that
mm,
the military that I grew up in, and which is different than today's, I think. But the military I was in, the senior enlisted people really ran the military.
mm,
They were the brains of the operation. They had the experience. I was some young snot nosed JO junior officer that really didn't know what the hell was going on. But
mm,
with I outranked them by the hierarchy, but they were the ones that kind of guided me and taught me leadership and taught me humility and taught me how to lead. I mean, I'm a 25-year-old kid and I have two senior chiefs that are in their upper 30s and I outranked them. So I could tell them to honestly, technically, to do whatever I wanted them to, but it's not how it works. So
mm,
I learned about leadership, leading by example, leading from the front, and being that person and helping out junior enlisted people who might have problems, sitting them down, almost like a father to a certain degree. And I had a mentor, my skipper, who unfortunately passed away about 10 years ago. He got
mm,
hit by a car while I was riding his bike.
mm,
But he really taught me leadership. I mean, that was the one thing I brought out of the military. It's right in front of you. Not everyone took advantage of it.
mm.
Um, and it was important because, I mean, we're flying off an aircraft carrier. There's 200 people on a flight deck. We're a $100 million aircraft. And there's 5 of us in that plane. So everybody has to do their job correctly. So it's that attention to detail. Don't mess up. I mean, one person messes up, a lot of bad things can happen very, very
Mm.
quickly. And so you learn that attention to detail. You learn how to lead people by example. You learn how to do the little things right. It's not about the big things. It's the little things that are going to trip you up. Um,
Man, love that. Love
and
that.
that's why I was 2 years of flight school. I mean, it was, and literally, I'm not learning how to fly a plane. I'm learning how to sit in the back of a plane. And we were the air traffic control, so we went airborne, and we were air traffic control off the carrier. So we were talking to everybody. We had a radar system and all kinds of other cool systems.
Mm,
But you really learn teamwork because you look at this and it used to amaze me. You've got probably 40 planes going flying every single day. The average age is probably upper 20s, maybe
wow.
lower 30s. I mean, we're still kids at this point. I
Right
mean,
on.
yeah, I'm sure there's people who are in their 30s saying, I'm not a kid. And I get that. I'm 57. So I can kind of say that same age, but they're the same age as my kids right now. And they're flying multi-million-dollar aircraft. There's 18-year-old kids launching you. It's incredible. And to watch flight ops is still an amazing concept, but that's what the military is about. That's the leadership. That's the making sure everyone knows what they're doing, making sure follow those little steps. Because again, if someone messes up, 5 of us are in a very expensive aircraft are going into the water, and that's not a good situation to be in. So you try
Love
to
that.
avoid that, and you avoid that by training. You avoid that by everything that
Process.
we were, yeah, process everything that we were trained on. We had manuals that talked about our plane was written in blood. someone got hurt, and that's why there's the emergency procedure. That's why there's,
Mm.
you do it this way and not that way.
Mm.
But it's interesting because as I transitioned out of the military, the hardest thing for me, and I still see this today, is the civilian world in general. They love to have more meetings, more
Mm.
this, more that. They don't want to make decisions. In the military, you didn't have a choice. I mean,
Right.
you're out flying with a couple F-14s. That's how old I am. They were still in the fleet. And someone goes airborne. A silkworm site locks you up from Iran. What do? You don't have time to have a meeting. You don't have time to think about it. You have to react, and you have to react quickly, and you have to react with procedure. So I always say this in the civilian world: if you don't make a decision, you've made a decision. Just make it. If you're wrong, guess what? You can change it. No one's dying here, folks. So go
Mm.
backwards. And that's the thing I learned in the military, was just try to make decisions. Now, I have taken it to extreme at points. So I'm not saying it's all good.
Mm-hmm.
I just keep making, let's just keep going forward. We're taking this hill. So I need to temper myself at points, but that's the biggest takeaway I got out as far as leadership. Just do it.
Right
Just
on.
go out, make a decision, get some people around you, and just go do it. If it's wrong, who cares? Turn around,
Accept
do it
it.
again. Yeah.
Learn,
So
study it, right? It's crazy the parallels here. I was at an event last night, and I was at the head table. There was a panel discussion about our local area here. We're known as the Queen City, and about the prosperity here and the growth from a lot of the companies that are here right now. And a conversation came up about a book called Fierce Conversations, if I'm saying that right, hopefully.
okay. Don't know
Fierce
that.
Conversations, yeah. And a lot of it, to my understanding, and I have it logged in my bookmarks, but it talks about a concept called truth grounding, which I believe was a derivative of military, which was discussed last night at the table. So really, it just comes out to, I think it was a common operating picture, all these different acronyms that were discussed. I don't know what branch or what, I have to do the research, but all it really meant was, like you said, right? The decision needs to be made. No more meetings, make the decision, be decisive, and then respond to whatever the outcome is, good or bad. So just additive there. I wanted to dive further now into like the guide part. Thanks for outlining to your path to now. I mean, it's fascinating. And the word leader and leadership was sprinkled throughout that. So what I'd like to do is to hear from you, going back to the beginnings of this, where you were outlining, Rob, just how you're able to build your business by building community, by your network, expanding, maintaining it, and optimizing your network. So I'd love to hear some tips and tricks for those listening here that are, maybe newer business owners or are looking to scale and grow. What are some tips that you would lend to them as a business leader that they can do to correspond or coincide as a community leader, right? So building community that can then yield the building of your business.
Yeah, I think the first thing is you have to give with no expectation of anything in return.
Mm.
And you have to be sincere. It's very obvious. I've seen a lot of fakes. I've seen a lot of people leverage the veteran name
Mm.
to get branding, and they're not helping veterans. And you want to get me on my soapbox and get me PO'd, just bring some of those. And I've seen it, and I've had those, and I've called people out on it because I don't put up with it. Don't you
Kudos.
dare leverage a brand, any veteran or any
Mm-mm.
veteran service and then not be there to help them, or to expect something in return. So I was taught, it's a long play, right? As a small business owner in the beginning, the goal is revenue, right? You got to get revenue, but it's a slow play. You're not going to get things out of this quickly. But again, you are leveraging your brand, you're leveraging who you are, you're leveraging your networks, whatever you're leveraging, and you can have a huge impact. I mean, I work with the local high schools. Like I said, I've worked with National Honor Society kids, because they wanted to do interns. And I'm like, I'm not making some 17-year-old kid intern in an insurance agency office. That's god awful. I just can't do that. But when this kid walked in and said, my family is full of veterans and I want to help the homeless veterans in the Hudson Valley, I was like, okay, good. Now we're on the same page. How are you going to do that? And all I did was just connect him to the right people. He did everything. I give this kid complete kudos. Suits for
Mm.
Soldiers was the same concept. Hey, listen, we've collected a lot of suits here. Let's keep going. I was able to link up with an organization. I'll do a shout out to them now. Save a Suit
Mm.
in Bethel, Connecticut. They're the ones that actually process the suits. They do all the hard work. I have the easy job. I'm just collecting.
Mm.
But they do job fairs. They're working with Department of Labor. They're working with big businesses. COVID kind of shut a lot of this down, unfortunately, but prior to COVID, they were really rolling. So Scott Sokolowski, who runs it, wants to take this national. He can.
Wow.
I will tongue in cheek say, even though he's an Air Force veteran and I'm a Navy veteran, so we have our differences. We all love each other. That he'll pull this off. And so I'm just a small cog in his wheel, because the problem is
Mm.
I was collecting so many suits, I had no place to put them, no place to
Mm.
send them. And I met him on LinkedIn and was like, hey, I got these suits. Can you? Oh, I'll take them all day long.
Hmm.
So we've been able to leverage our relationship. But it's really, we you can really make a big difference in the world, and pick your passion. I tell everyone all the time, if you don't want to help veterans, that's cool. I don't care. Find something. There's a lot of things we can do. There's a lot of organizations. The not-for-profits are getting killed right now because of COVID.
Mm.
They can't do their galas. They can't generate a lot of volunteer your time. It's nice to donate money. I'm not saying don't donate money, but volunteer your time, because if it's something you're passionate about, it's very rewarding. You're going to meet some great people. And I think it makes you a better business person and a
Mhm.
better entrepreneur if you have service as part of call it your business plan. But again, it's not a business plan to collect revenue and leads and all that stuff. It's a business plan to, because you have a platform. A lot
Gotta
of
be
big
organic,
companies,
right, Rob? It's
it's
gotta
got to
be
be
organic.
organic, and it's got to be a give. It's a pure give. Like if someone calls me, I have parents call me. Hey, my son or daughter is thinking about joining the military. Will you talk to them? 100% of the time, yes. Send them in. If you want to come with them, that's fine, because they know me. I'm not the guy that's going to say, oh yeah, the military is great. You have to run around and blow things up and kill people. That's not what the military does. That's
Mm-mm.
not what it does, despite what might be out there in the press.
Mhm.
We're there to keep the peace. We're there to defend this country. So we have the rights that we all have. And so when young people come to me and they want to talk the military, I talk the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Love that.
Obviously I'm going to
Truth.
slant them towards the Navy, but whatever. You want to join the
Awesome.
Army? Awesome. And if I had a young man who wants to join the Army. Well, I don't know the Army, but I happen to know a West Point grad who was in the Army. So I gave him my spiel, and then I was connected with him because he'll be able to go more detail. I don't know the Army very well. Um, but that's helping your community, right? We all have experiences, and as we all get older, we have more and more of them. I think you need to share them. Share
Mm.
those experiences, connect with people with those experiences, because you've already gone down the path. You can help someone get from point A to point B quicker. And I had people helping me, and that's the way I view this. So I didn't know any of this, so I've had people help me, and the best thing I can do is share it,
Mm.
and share it with, again, there's no expectations. It is what it is, and you can have a big impact in people's lives. I mean, to watch some of the things that I've been part of, to watch not-for-profits become more successful.
Mm.
They'll come into my office and want an insurance. And one of them was an equine therapy center. And I said, well, let me
Mm.
just stop you right there, because I also work with that. I'll get into that here in a little bit. But they said, we're an equine therapy. We need insurance. I said, well, first of all, let me just start with thank you. And how can I help you? I don't care. I
Mm.
mean, you need the insurance because I don't want you to get sued. But let's talk about what you do, because I can help you.
Mm.
I know the veteran community. I understand how PTSD, I understand how equine therapy works. At a very civilian level, I'm certainly not a medical doctor,
Mm.
but those are the kind of cool conversations. And, now I was able to help them, connect them to a few other people. Because as a business owner, your job is not to just sell your product. Your
Mm.
job is to be a resource
Right
for your
on.
clients. And I've been a resource to people, to prospects. I never got the business, but I helped them out. That's all. That's a win for me. Now, if I do that all the time, I'll be broke, honestly. But that's a win, because eventually that's going to come about. I am a huge believer in karma.
Me too.
Huge believer in karma. And if you do the right thing, what goes around comes around. It can be good or bad. And I've seen karma work against people and I've seen it work for them. And if you keep trying to do the right thing, we're not perfect. We're going to screw up. We're human beings. But if your intentions are there and your intentions are good, good things will happen around you.
So
And
true.
it's so true. And I've seen it. I've been on this earth long enough to see it.
You become magnetized. I've seen it in my own life. I'm 30, and so not as much of the movie of life witnessed yet, but it's folks like you though, Rob, in our newly minted relationship here, through the phone, through the screen kind of thing. Our first conversation, I think we were on for 90. I think we booked
Yeah.
30, and it was so engaging and so synergistic that I'm 30, you're 57, but this is a bilateral learning session, right? There's things that I say that right, and approaching life with that mentality, with that outlook. Just because someone's 15 doesn't mean they can't teach you anything. There are absolutely things that they can do to inspire a thought, spark something, catalyze an opportunity for you, and vice versa, obviously. So I love what you said, just highlighting and recapping, right? So some of the things you said that are in direct lockstep with how I live my life. And I know many others in my world, and then the folks that I aspire to be like do as well, is to give without expectation back, right? Don't give to get, don't give for gratitude, just give to give. Give to give because it's good to give, man. How's that? Say that fast. Give to give.
Yeah, so I'll end up slurring that halfway through. So, but no, you're right, and
so
you
true.
can tell people's intentions.
Yeah,
Eventually you're going to get called out if you don't have the right intentions, or you're trying to do things for an end game, your own agenda. You eventually, you might work for a while. I've seen it work, but it's eventually going to get called out on it, and there's no longevity to it. Because look at, I just look at what my office has done. We started out collecting a couple suits, and now Save a Suit this year is on pace to do 1,000 veterans all over the United States. So 1,000 veterans have been positively affected by Save a Suit. They got a brand new suit. They probably got some other clothes. I've had people donate money to me, and I'm not a not-for-profit. So when they donate money, I'm like, I can't take it legally, and I don't want to take it. So they'll go shopping, or I send them to Save a Suit. They can donate it there because they're a not-for-profit. There, it's amazing when you offer an opportunity to people, how quickly they'll jump at it.
Right on. And if you could you maybe elaborate a bit more for those listening that have suits or have other items that are potentially worthy of donating? So suits are obviously one, and everything that goes with a suit, right? I'm assuming is it
Yep.
suit shoes? Is it suit shirt, tie?
Everything.
Yeah. Then what else though? Are there other things? So are there, like for me, I'm even thinking about, we'll do it here in real time. I've got maybe a couple of pairs of slacks that are not necessarily suits, but they're something that are still professional.
100%. And anything that's interview clothes, and obviously we've come down. When I went on Wall Street in 1995, it was dark suit, white shirt, red tie, no stripes, no dots, nothing. That's changed, and I think COVID's made us even more casual.
Right.
So it's just really interview clothes, because the thing you have to understand, and I'm going to use myself as an example here. That's a better way to do it. When I got out of the military in 1995, I had my military uniform. I was told what to wear every day, right? I typically was in a flight suit, which is like a pair of pajamas, which was great. I had those and play clothes, as my kids like to call them. I didn't have khakis. When would I wear khakis? Think about it. Never. The only reason I had golf shirts is I played golf. So if I'm not a golfer, or I'm not going to wear a collared shirt, I probably wouldn't even had collared shirts. So the military, when these guys and girls come out and they've been in for 4 years, some have been in longer, but minimum is usually 4 to 6 years. All those clothes that they had, and they've gone from 18 to 22, 22 to 20, whatever, your body's changed. They just don't have those clothes. There's no reason to have them. So what this does is it allows them, at least they have the right outfit to go for an interview, whatever that may be. Maybe a suit, maybe just a jacket, maybe just a pair of khakis and a shirt, and it gets them going, because now they know what to do. And Scott, we'll send it, it doesn't not necessarily someone just getting out of the military, because there's a lot of military veterans that have had issues with PTSD, with a lot of other things. And so now they're trying to get a job, and they just don't have the right clothes, right? Or they've gone from one job to another. Now they need to upgrade their wardrobe. And, they're there to help them. And they're also there to connect them. They'll do a job fair, bring all these kids into a room, and they'll have maybe a resume writer, maybe a LinkedIn expert, maybe whatever, but there's also mental health people there. There is an ulterior motive to this. Let's have someone just watch them.
Right.
Because the biggest push right now that I'm doing, and a lot of other veterans, there's a lot of resources for these veterans, and they don't know they're out there. And I'm guilty. 4 years ago, I didn't realize I was eligible for VA medical.
And that was however many years after you had been honorably discharged too, right? So what was it like?
Decades. Let's put it that way. Decades. Yeah. Just to put it in perspective.
I remember you said that in our first chat.
Yeah. So I got out in 1995. So just do the simple math, 36 years ago. And I, until up to 4 years ago, didn't even realize I was eligible, because I thought you had to retire. I just thought only retired. And the other part of the problem too, is I was like, I'm not clogging the system. The Vietnam guys have a lot of cancers. They have a lot of weird stuff from Agent Orange. I don't need to be part of that system. And what I was told by a woman that works at the VA, she actually called me out on it. And I don't want to say got in my face, but was a little angry with me. And she was justified. I respect the hell out of her. She goes, listen, you not joining the VA, every time someone joins, the VA gets more money. And you're not going to suck medical money, the funding, right? And I should know that, being in the military. If you don't spend everything you got that month, you don't get everything back. It's a very different philosophy than a for-profit. But so she was like, no, Rob, you join, you're going to help the Vietnam veterans more by joining. And I'm like, why? She goes, well, because you join, we get X amount of funding, and you're not disabled. You're not a Vietnam veteran, so we're not going to deal with Agent Orange issues. I was Desert Shield, Desert Storm. But I was not on the ground. I was not around the burn pits. I was in the best place you could be. I was on a carrier with air conditioning. Let's put it that way. So I could actually help them more by joining. I wish I had known that 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I made a financial decision, got myself off the policy and saved a boatload of money. And now I just have a policy for my wife and my son. But those job fairs and just being around veterans, you can tell veterans this. I had a good friend of mine, sick as a dog, had the flu, miserable. I'm like, dude, VA. He'd been in the Army for 11 years, Special Forces. Had no idea. He goes, what do you mean? It's like, right in my town where my office is an outpatient clinic. Go there with your DD-214. They had him signed up and had him meds within 10 minutes. He had no health care. Right? And he didn't know. So I yelled at him, being a complete hypocrite, because I didn't know 3 years ago. But it's that. So when you get the veterans together, the suit becomes a symbol. Now you got them all together, and hey, by the way, you're all eligible for VA medical benefits. You can sign up here. You're all eligible for these things. You're eligible for disability, maybe, right? Maybe you have a bad back. Maybe you all that stuff, which I would never have known anything about until 3 years ago. Wow. So it becomes a symbol, and it's powerful.
It all starts with awareness too, right? It's the awareness 100%. of just even speaking with the VA, and then the more vets that are in the know of suits, save a suit and suits for soldiers, the more that they can be benefited. And then again, it goes back to ripple effects, right? So, you as the servant leader, doing the great works that you do in the community, and then helping suits for soldiers save a suit, the vet who was maybe, not knowing where to go, maybe didn't have the financial means to get a suit, they get hooked up, dialed in, they're able to now go acquire a job. The ripple effects are immeasurable. I mean, the impact is immeasurable. And so, you did such a great job in talking about, give with no expectation back, and be genuine, be honest, be patient, right? Those are extractions from your teachings on how to do that. And then let's kind of tie a bow on it by talking about, here you are now decades later, and your business is growing. You're providing value, you're supporting, your stakeholders, your customers, and obviously you're doing great work in the community as well. What does it look like for someone, for those listening, like, especially like me? I'm a year into my business, but I've always been big into community and giving back, and oftentimes, sometimes overdoing it and spreading myself a little thin. But
Yep.
that's that, which is a whole nother podcast. Maybe we'll do another one, Rob. But
We should, because I do the same thing. My wife's like, "You joined another board?" I'm like, "Yeah, I did."
just can't help it. But you know what? I'll just say to this. I've been really trying to keep this thought top of mind. I've got a couple things. The one is that I said to you before we hit record is keep serving to keep soaring, right? So if you keep serving, you're going to keep ascending. But the other one that really relates to that over committing is you have to first serve yourself so you can best serve others. And over committing dilutes your work, right? It can dilute you. And it's something that I've learned the hard way a couple of times. So anyone listening that might feel that way too, prioritize yourself. It sounds like you're being selfish, but you're not, right? You have to be in your best frame of mind, state, physically, emotionally, spiritual, everything, so that you can then go be that best version of a servant leader as a business leader. So, but what I wanted to do though, back to that original, inquiry, Rob, was to hear what does it look like all these years later of all this goodness you've spread, the patience you've had, playing the long game, serving others. What does it look like today for your business? Like what are the things that you're seeing, so that people can hear that there is a promised land to doing all this great work that is the right work and is the necessary work. What does it look like if you can wait long enough?
What it looks like is your reputation in the community is being a giver. My intentions have always been pure. They've always been to give back. And so now I get requests. Like I did a Rotary, I called it my Rotary tour 2 years ago. I had all these Rotaries call me and said, "Hey, we want you to come in and talk about suit soldiers. We want to do a suit drive for you." I'm not having that conversation talking about insurance. Let's be honest here. There's no way they're bringing Rob Bowen in to talk insurance. So now I just met 30 more people who I never knew. And guess what happens? They do a suit collection for me. They call me the next year. "Hey, can you come back and do the same presentation?" Would love to. Go back and do it again. Now I'm in front of all kinds of people, and it's a different conversation because they'll figure out what I do. I don't talk about it. They'll figure out what I do. And then you get that phone call 6 months later. "Hey, I saw your suit presentation and I'm buying a house, and I actually work with real estate investors, and I'm going to fix it and flip it. And you talked about that a little bit, but I really like the fact you work with veterans. So can you help me?"
That's my
What's the
favorite
hardest?
my favorites.
It's a great conversation, because what's the hardest thing as a salesperson or as an owner? It's trust, right? You talk about any great sales training you have, it's all about trust. Well, right away, they already trust me. The rapport, they already know me. And I will go down the tangent of helping veterans, and we won't even talk about insurance. That's a foregone conclusion. So it's like, "Hey, how can I help you?" I have clients say, "How can I help you?"
Can I just quickly interject and say,
please.
and I love it. It's to be additive and congruent to what you're saying, Rob. It's something I love to talk about is how to sell without selling, right? We're always hearing about the
100%.
master salesperson, right? And the funnel and the process and the qualifying and the leads and the follow-up and all these things, the cadence. How about just serving and just listening and being there and providing value? If the value has to do with, you heard someone talking about they're new in town and they're looking to join a gym. Hey, I know two gym owners. They're awesome. Call them up, drop my name, and they'll take good care of you. There's nothing about insurance, there's nothing about what, your day job is, but it's value that now and again, it's just with that true ethos of foundationally, it's the right thing, right? Isn't it nice to know that someone who was looking for maybe it's something different. Maybe it's a little less trivial. I know gyms are important, but I don't know, family doctor. I got the best guy in town, right? Boom, make the call, connect them. And then they have that, they tag that in their brain. So how to sell without selling is all I wanted to say. I'm getting extra juice now.
You are spot on, because otherwise you are like everybody else, right? How do you differentiate yourself? And we all try to differentiate ourselves.
Cut through the noise.
And you're right. If I can help a small business owner with their accounting, now I'm not an accountant, but I can refer them. So all the skill sets that I'm using in my business, I'm using for my not-for-profit work. Yeah. Just connecting people. Hey, I'm looking for someone that does this. Oh, really? Well, I know a guy that does that. I know a girl that does that. Let me introduce you guys.
Character reference testimonial, right?
100%.
Warm lead.
100%. And what do you do? I'm an insurance agent. Okay, great. Next conversation. We move on. a lot of that comes back, right? And that's not the goal, but a lot of it will come back. And a lot of it, if you are a true and you're coming from a good place to help someone, then things come back in spades. Like we said in the beginning, karma sucks if you don't do it right here. Trust me, I've seen it.
So
But if your intentions are there and you are constantly trying to help people, and I mean, I have my team. My team knows it too. People come in, they're looking, hey, I've got some suits, and we go out and get them and whatever we're doing, and all we do is just give them a little magnet that says, hey, listen, thank you, and tell people about what we do here. And people call us, so and so just told me to call you, and that you collect suits, and I want to bring them in. And and it's gotten me to do boxes for soldiers. This year we sent 350 boxes overseas to
wow.
active duty military. Equine therapy is another one. So it's all kind of feeding on itself.
So good.
And that's the best part, because again, now you're instead of having to go to those Chamber of Commerce events trying to sell insurance, which is never going to happen in a million years, no matter how hard you try, or anything you're selling.
It's
you're
sad,
going
Rob, because I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's sad.
No,
And I
please.
hope I'm not alienating anybody listening to this, but there are still a lot of people, at least in this neck of the woods and others that I've seen, that still think that is the primary tactic, when it really just is not. It just is not. And it's painful to watch. It's painful to watch from afar, because you're like,
think about my business. We have the worst reputation. We're about like a used car salesman, right? That's about where insurance agents are. You go to a big, hey, John, how you doing? Here's my card, man. Give me a call. I'll hook you up with insurance. You're never going to call me ever. You shouldn't call me ever. As opposed to the conversation of, hey, I understand you do some work with veterans. So do I. Let's have that conversation, because now we've built that bond. And again, I don't really want the business. I would rather, if I can help a veteran, that's more powerful for me. That's my, that's what keeps me going in the morning. But you don't have to do a lot. And I know we're getting near the end. So, but you don't have to do a ton of stuff. If we all do a little bit, the power of the masses is huge. So again, I tell people, okay, find something you love. If you don't love veterans, awesome, do something different. I don't care. But give an hour of your week. We all have an hour. We all have a half an hour. But use your skill set. Like, what are you good at? We're all different, right? We're all different people. I happen to be good at certain things. You're good at other things. So take what you're good at as a human being and offer that service to a not-for-profit, or to what, I don't care, something. And you've now saved that not-for-profit hours of work, because you're good at something. If you're good at social media, or you're good, whatever, it doesn't matter. You now have an expertise that you can leverage to help someone else. And guess what? You're going to learn a lot too. This is not a one-way street. You're going to learn by default, because I have people say, oh, it's thank you for spending so much time with me, explain all that. I'm like, no, this helped me too. It helped me, because I have to verbalize it all. I got to get it all in place. And now, as I say it, it's different. And it is a two-way street. And I think it's important for people to just go out, and there's a lot of people hurting right now. A lot of not-for-profits.
More than ever.
A lot of people need help. My passion and my soapbox is the number of suicides that are being committed every day by veterans. One is unacceptable.
22 is just sick.
And we're higher than 22. COVID did not help this at all.
I know it's worse.
And I'm not saying that there's a quick solution to all this, but if we all just take one step forward every single day to try to help that, and this is my passion, pick your own passion. Doesn't make a difference to me, that if we can save a couple of these kids, because we got to remember this, and I'm sorry, I'm on my soapbox here, but I'm going to continue.
Good.
But these kids wrote a blank check to Uncle Sam. That's what I did. I didn't think of it that way. I was too stupid and young to realize what I was doing, but I had a lot of fun in the military. But these kids wrote a blank check. They gave up all their rights to defend your rights. That's like the inside joke in the military. And we owe it to them. I'm sorry. We as a society owe it to them, to give 1,000%. them the best chance they have to be all they want to do is be productive members of society. I'm not saying all vets are great people. You're going to have, you have good and bad, but in general, they have their different kind of discipline, different kind of thing. And also veterans, we don't want special treatment. So you got to kind of be sneaky about this to a certain degree. Veterans will talk to veterans. That's just the way it works. And that's not an arrogance thing. It just is what it is. But they just want to be productive members of society. They're just a little lost right now. They don't really know how to. And a lot of these organizations, just a conversation with people, just being aware of your surroundings. And you don't have to be a veteran to help another veteran. I mean, again, donate some time, figure out what someone's doing. There are so many. I'm on a task force where there are 700 people as part of this task force in the Hudson Valley.
Wow.
Right? A meeting might be 75 people. There are hundreds of not-for-profits, hundreds, just where I live, let alone where you live. Just New York State probably has thousands. Go find one. Do a Google search. Go find one and volunteer. The executive director will fall off their chair. Hey, my name's Rob Bowen. I saw what you're doing. I want to volunteer. What can I do to help you guys? And if they're smart, they say, well, what do you do for a living? What can we leverage that you're good at? And help them. I mean, you can have a big impact. And sorry, that was my soapbox, because these are kids. I mean, my son served. My daughter-in-law is still serving. She's deployed right now. They're kids. I don't care if you're in your mid-20s. I mean, they're young. I can say that because I'm old now, but they deserve wise, seasoned, like a good red wine, I guess.
Marinated.
Yeah. But it's and that's not an insult. It's just we are the richest country in the world by far. And we have a lot of resources. It's just, how do you get them to the veterans? That's the hard part. Or how do you get them to whatever not-for-profit you want to support? And
it's all about that awareness, right? You mentioned.
Yeah. Well, it's about meeting people. It's, and again, going out, talking to people, talking about it, having a different conversation. And all of a sudden someone says, oh, wait a minute, I want to help, or I do this, or, how can I do that? And, you could take these things to a completely different level, or start your own. I mean, I kind of fell into Suits for Soldiers and just kept it going. I didn't one day wake up and say, I'm going to collect suits today. That's not how it happened. I just saw something that was awesome and was working and said, okay, well, let's double down on this. So do your own thing. I mean, there's a lot of things we can do to help people. Work at a soup kitchen. It doesn't matter. American Legions are always looking for people to help them. I mean,
it's just that action. It's that action. It's the awareness. It's the awareness first, because without awareness, we can't make action. And then just in the moment, right? There's a couple quotes that come to mind. Inspiration is perishable. Act on it immediately. So you're listening to this right now, or
I like that.
Look into the lens, right? That's Naval Ravikant, tech investor, modern day philosopher. Inspiration is perishable. Act on it immediately. So to our millions of watchers and listeners, take that to the bank. And then, the other one that I took a Tony Robbins quote and I made it my own, and I tweaked it. It's the only way to go about living is to always be giving. So I think that certainly wraps together our ethoses together. And, it really is, you can never go wrong by giving. And it could be as small as having a conversation with a stranger who looks like they might be in a down moment, all the way up to doing the incredible things you're doing with thousands and thousands of suits and, impacts. It's not just the vet who is impacted. It's the family of the vet. It's the friends of the vet. It's the community of the vet. These are the things that we need to think about at all times when we have an opportunity to serve. And another one for you, Rob, because, even though you did serve. So my thing is, I did not serve, but I've got a lot of friends that are vets, and I do have family that was military. I love to serve those who serve. So on that note, where can we find you, Rob? And then we'll adjourn this. And I feel like, because this was so good and there's so much more to go, we'll have to figure out a follow-up to this. But where can we find and how can we connect with you? Throw out some info, and I'll make sure to put it in the show notes.
Okay. There is a Facebook for Suits for Soldiers of the Hudson Valley. There's a Facebook group. Just search it. My phone number is 845-610-5700. And my email is rob@insuranceleadership.com. And
simple,
reach out if you got some ideas, you want to help, you got a better idea than what I talked about today. I'd love to hear it, and let's collaborate, and let's try to make a big difference, as much of a big difference as we can.
I love it. Well, again, thanks for your service, Rob. Thanks for spending this time. So many golden nuggets that I can't wait to go back and go through this, get it tuned up, ready for release in the coming weeks. And again, you'll see in the show notes to our watchers, listeners, how you can get in touch with Rob. So, and as always, I'd love to conclude with more gratitude. Vidwheel Creator Network for my podcast partner, my gear. Wouldn't be doing this without my friends there at Vidwheel Creator Network here in West New York. So, Rob, until next time, thanks for being here, and we will see everyone on the next segment.
Sounds great. Thank you, John. I appreciate it.
Thank you.